Welcome back, everybody. We're back with yet another episode of the good old podcast.
Yes, sir. Both of us back pulling stuff. This episode will be getting uploaded a bit late, just so you guys are aware. We do apologize for that. It's just conflicting schedules at the end of the day. But we're here now. We got a good topic for today, and we'll be going over that shortly. But figured we'd give you guys an update on the Masters Olympia, because we did talk about that, I think, around the Olympia, too. We're talking about the Masters Olympia and how that could be dangerous and shit for previous Olympia competitors.
And just all the different divisions, too. That's kind of where the conversation stemmed from.
Yeah, so with what's new lately is that so a few things have happened. Really, one is the biggest thing that happened is that they increased the age gap. So it was 45 and up, but now they made it 40 and up. Which to me, it's like 40 and up for an Olympia stage is just really not that old. I'm pretty sure Ronnie was competing on the O into his 40s. I don't think he won his first one until he was like 35 or something. So, it's not super young. 45 is understandable. That's most Masters divisions in like IFBB and NPC and all of that are 45, but they'll also have like Masters 35 and up, Masters 40 and up, Masters 45 and up. So that's how they structure it. So ideally, if you're going to be competing, like obviously not in the O stage, which most guys don't, but if you're not competing on the O stage, what you want to do is, like, if you're 45, you can compete in essentially 3 different divisions, all within like the same class, essentially. So you can compete in the 45 and up, the 40 and up, and the 35 and up, and like essentially win 3 or 4 different fucking medals because you're beating all those guys.
Imagine you win all 3 in the same O.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have multiple age groups like that, but it's happened before where people will win like multiple age groups because they're like 47 and just look insane, So, I'm glad that they're not doing it that way. At least 35 is like most of the guys in the men's open on the O are at least 30 or around 35, maybe even older. But I think Dexter Jackson finished competing in the O when he was 50. I think it was his 20th Olympia, and I think he was 50,
which is wild.
Yeah, which is absolutely astounding. But yeah, so that was the biggest thing, is that they increased the age, or technically decreased it from 45 to 40. So that sparked some conversations people were having. So one of them is whether or not Jay Cutler is going to be competing in it. And he confirmed he is not going to be competing in it. I don't think he'll ever compete again. He looks phenomenal for his age.
He does. He really does. It's absurd. He does these lifting videos with it's him and Christ, what's the dude's name?
He did one with Jesse James West and Ronnie Coleman.
But then the big black guy who's a power builder.
Larry Wheels.
Larry Wheels, yeah, he does a lot of videos with Larry Wheels.
Yeah. I don't follow too much of Jay Cutler. I used to, but just haven't really been keeping up with it. But his videos are just too long. Like when I want to watch something about bodybuilding, I want it to be like as far as like videos, like if I'm like, oh, what does Jay do in the gym? Like I want to see like a 7-minute video of him like this, and this. But like he does like 30-minute videos, so I'm just like I kind of pick it apart depending on the topic. But so he talked about it, and he just basically confirmed he's not going to be doing it. He's like 52, 53 around there, and he looks really, really good. And he's obviously like he's lost a lot of size, but he's also lost a lot of shape. Like he looks like he's getting older, but to look the way he does is just insane. But
I would say Jay Cutler's build looks still pretty young, but you can really see it in his facial structure. That's where you can really see the age starting to come in. His hairline's kind of all over the place now too.
Yeah. His face is definitely showing the age a bit, but he started competing in the O in 2004. That was like 20 years ago. We're talking like just over 30. He was competing in it. So, but then people were asking Phil Heath if he's going to compete in it because he's like 42, 43. Now that it's down to 40, and basically he came out with basically saying that he's not going to compete in it because he was basically like I've essentially the gist of it is that he's done too much with his career to like
Yeah.
really bother with this show, because he's like, when with the men's open, it was like an all weekend thing, and it was like an event, and there's multiple things going on. Where with the Masters, he's like, I'm not gonna like do all of this just for like one day show, just to show up peaked and then, bounce. But then also like people are going to be wondering whether or not I should be competing in the regular O. And he's like, I'm just not going to do it. It's just not really worth my time. Um, so that's why he decided not to do it. But I can understand why people want him to do it. I think he would do really, really well. I don't think anybody would be able to beat him if he was ready to start like competing again, and he really started to focus on it. Then he'd be able to compete and place well. He's really not that far off. I mean, he stopped competing just a few years ago, really, like 4 or 5 years ago. So it wouldn't really be too much effort for him to get back to where he was, and he's still training and all that shit, and he still hold on to a lot of it. So, I mean, I
All I'm
respect.
saying,
What's
all I'm
that?
saying is that the when the Masters O comes around this year, if we don't hear "Baby, don't hurt me," then I will
Yeah.
be very upset.
If the natty daddy himself doesn't show up, I'll be fuming.
I just
Fuming.
realized the video of the dude walking right off the stage is him. I didn't realize that was Mike
Oh
O'Hearn.
no! There's a meme about it, and I lost my shit when I saw it again. It's so
Well,
funny.
they just made it into one of those "Baby, don't hurt me" memes.
Yeah, I forget what it was. It was something talking about it, and I'm like, I was watching it, and I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, how do you just like he just like straight up walked off it? It's not like he slipped and fell or something like that. He just straight up like it was like he was walking off like a diving board. Like he just like fucking whoop,
I mean,
just walked right, like it wasn't even
I
there.
get it. I get it with like how stage lighting can be. Like when I would not, I haven't performed on stage bodybuilding wise, but being on stage, you kind of lose track sometimes of where the edge of the stage is. Especially those ones aren't like true stages. That's just like wooden like platforms put up together with the judges seated below. So it can be pretty easy to, to kind of lose your spot and just kind of plummet right off. And it's like you're right, it's like diving form. Like his whole
Yeah.
body just flips right off.
See, and then the thing is, it's like I said, it's not like he was like close to it and then he just accidentally stepped off. Like he was aiming to walk off the stage. It was clear. Like he's like, I'm going this way because I want to step down, but instead I'm just gonna like full bore it and just not even hesitate and just fucking boom, just straight down on the ground, fucking face planted. But it's so funny just to see like a giant ass dude just stumble off a stage.
Do you
And
think
he
we'll
like
see Mike O'Hearn at Masters O though?
I mean, I think he'd be have like a booth or something if there's some sort of expo or something, but that's about it. I don't think he'll actually compete. He hasn't
Okay.
competed in forever. So I don't think he'll compete, and it would cause too much controversy if he won. Um, I think
What
he would.
with him claiming natural? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like it would. I mean, obviously we all know he's not natural, but like it would just kind of more point the finger at him not being natural if he like competing in the Masters O and like beat like some of the biggest names out there, and he's
Yeah.
supposedly natural. Like it wouldn't check out.
So it's
So
almost like self detrimental to his brand to actually
yeah,
compete.
yeah, it wouldn't support his image, and people don't know him as a competitor. He's just a social
That's
media
true.
influencer, so it wouldn't really support his image. So I don't think he will. But again, I think he'll set up a booth or some shit like that and promote like his like the ISO brand that he has or whatever it is.
So you're saying that him competing would in fact be baby hurting him?
Yes, if Baby is general society, then yes, Baby would hurt him. But yeah, that's my stance on it. If he does, that'd be interesting. But I mean, I don't even know who's competing yet. Let me see if there's even a roster yet.
I was gonna
Um,
say it's still pretty early on because the actual O was only a month and a half ago, 2 months
well,
ago, something like
I
that.
think it's August that it comes up.
Oh,
Like
oh,
it's
oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's a different time. Yeah, so it's gonna have 10 divisions. Yeah, it's August 26th and 27th in Romania. Um,
interesting.
yeah. So let's see.
I'm actually
Let's
really glad
see.
that there's more international shows because like the whole hottie, or yeah, the whole hottie thing for a while, or not hottie. Yeah. Sorry. Men's O winner this year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
blanking, completely blanking on the name. I think I got it right. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Heidi
Hottie.
Chupin.
Hottie. Yeah, I don't know why I'm. Oh, okay. I always second guess it because Hami Rambod, but
Yeah, there's Hami Rambod, and then there's a another one that's a similar name too.
yeah.
But
But I'm really glad, like, for this. Obviously, he's not in that division, but international things, because like Hottie couldn't come compete in the States for a while because of visa issues. So I'm glad that
yeah,
we're
the
getting
COVID and
more
shit.
international shows.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean, so here's the thing that's tough is that like obviously the biggest shows ever is in the US and it's been
I
that
mean, it
way.
has to. It has to.
Yeah, it's been that way since the 60s. I mean, that's why Arnold moved here was for bodybuilding. And that was in like 62 or something.
Well,
But
he also moved because his family wanted him to be a farmer.
yeah, that's true. He's yeah, he needed to get the hell out of Austria. But he so it what's tough is that for some reason it's split where Eastern Europe has the IFBB Elite series, right? The IFBB Elite, like I guess not really like a brand, it's like a governing body that runs the shows in Eastern
Yeah.
Europe. So we're talking like mainly Russia, Ukraine, stuff like that. So it's tough because it would be easier for these guys to get to those shows, but like those shows are so unbelievably like overshadowed by the IFBB. It's not even close. And that's why like uh shit, what's his name? That guy, Michael Crizzo, that's it, Mike Crizzo. That's why he came over to the IFBB because he just was decimating the stage in the IFBB Elite. But then he came to
Yeah.
the IFBB and he got destroyed, which is funny because it's like he was so far beyond everybody else in the Elite. He's like, I need an actual challenge. So he came to the IFBB and he just got fucking decimated. So it's like it just kind of shows the level of competition that's over here in the US versus in the Eastern Europe. But they do have a lot of, bigger shows elsewhere, like the Arnold Brazil, I think is happening right now. I think it's this weekend. Yes, it's this weekend. Arnold Classic Brazil. And that's where a lot of the international guys like Suleiman, Altercate, let's see, Wellington Baptista. Let's see who else is big in men's open. Yeah, that's really it that I know. And then there's also men's wheelchair. Tim Caldwell. I didn't fucking know that. That's sick. Damn. Tim Caldwell. That's the guy that I know. He's the wheelchair guy at the gym I go to or went to. That's what's up.
Nice.
He's gonna be in the Arnold Classic Brazil in men's wheelchair. Good for him. I hope he places well. But yeah, so that's going on right now. So like every single competitor besides James Berger, Berger, cheeseburgers, James Berger, and then
we
Tim
gotta get
Caldwell.
we gotta get Joe Rogan to commentate a men's bodybuilding division.
I think it'd be interesting. I really want to see what he thinks of it. Like if
I
he'd
don't
have to
think
learn
he.
more, but
Yeah, I was gonna say he's not as invested in that. It's not like MMA. He's like the MMA guy.
yeah, and it's a good story behind how he got that gig, anyways. But what I was saying was, as far as like competitors go, in the Arnold Brazil is Tim and James are the only ones in the U.S. The other two wheelchair, Woody Belfort and Tory Jones, are Canadian, but everybody else in the men's open are all international. None of them are in the U.S. So,
Yeah.
and one's from Kuwait, which is interesting, Suleiman. But yeah, so there's plenty of shows. There's a lot of European shows that go on, like the Amateur Arnold, I think, or I forget exactly which one it is. Maybe it's the Amateur O that takes place in Europe. Um, so like that one's a big one that a lot of guys out there compete in who live in Europe, but it's like an Arnold run. I think it's an Arnold run show, but um, yeah. So I mean, there's plenty of opportunities as far as international shows go, but it was really bitch during COVID, especially for guys in the Middle East, especially to come out here and compete, which
Yeah.
sucks. But yeah, it is what it is. But speaking of Masters Olympia, starts with an M. We figured we'd cover some myths about
What a
bodybuilding.
segue. What a segue.
We could never properly segue it. It's difficult to segue things randomly like that. But yeah, we figured because you've been watching a lot of Mythbusters, huh? Is that like some sort of kick you're on right now?
I needed a filler thing for teaching, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? When I was a kid, I loved watching MythBusters, and so I put it on, and my kids absolutely hated it for some reason. But I
Weird.
picked up a free 7-day membership for the streaming channel it's on, and then I got hooked again. So now I'm paying for that membership, and I'm just watching
Mm-hmm.
through all the MythBusters. So I was just in
What's
a
what's it
Discovery
on?
Plus,
I was about
Discovery
to say it's
Plus.
probably Discovery. Yeah.
But Discovery Plus is merging with HBO Max, so
Is it?
that's
Oh, that's dope.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's
But
like there's a couple things in Discovery Plus I wanted to watch, but I didn't want to
yeah,
like I couldn't justify like an actual subscription for it. Same with Paramount Plus. Like there's like three things I want to watch on there, but I don't want to actually like pay for a whole subscription.
yeah. I mean, that's the one benefit of having two other siblings and two parents that actively watch things. Like we all just have separate streaming things, and we all just collaborate with each other, so we have
Yeah,
access to basically everything.
nice. That's what's up. Yeah, we got most of everything. I'm the one who pays for the HBO. That's the only one that I pay for really.
Yeah,
My wife pays for most of it. Most of what we watch, Netflix, I believe Hulu, and then also Amazon Prime. That's all her. So she puts the most amount of money there, but I pay for HBO. But anyways, yes, you've been watching MythBusters, so we figured tackling some myths would be kind of fun, be kind of entertaining.
yeah. And we've talked about some of these before in the past, so it's not going to be totally out of left field, but it's just continuing the conversation and getting some more insight, especially more from the side of things from our own experiences rather than doing a deep dive with a bunch of research articles and things like that. um I mean, like the first one on the first site that I sent you, like that we talked about, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. But it's the
Yeah.
weight training that, or getting into the gym essentially and doing lifting with weights will stunt your growth. I know I talked about it relatively recently because I have one of my students who claims this, and that's why he's like staying away from it. And it's just not true because
Hmm.
your height is, I'd throw 90% on genetics. Like there's not much else that's going to impact your height. Like that's
Yeah.
one of the things that just can't be controlled. That's why like it's so frustrating to see, modern women in dating making an issue about height when it's like, hey, we can't control that. Screw you.
Yeah. Yeah. We literally
um
can't change it.
yeah. But, the I understand, I guess, where it comes from because people want to, make sure. I think it stems more from adults trying to get their kids not to injure themselves in the gym. Because, granted, a lot of people, if you're starting the gym early on, like middle school or maybe even earlier, there's going to be a lot of ego lifting just because that's how you are at that time. So I can understand the argument to try and prevent people from going in there, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't be using a lie for it, because unless you actually, like, if you hurt, like, for example, your growth discs, like in your back, if you ping those doing a deadlift early on, yeah, that's going to mess you up. But if just overall weight training, it's not going to mess you up like that. So that one is 100% false.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you train with proper form, that's really all it's going to come down to. And I mean, a lot of science actually shows that it's quite the opposite. If you train and you keep your mind on a specific goal, which we talked about, you'll actually grow more.
Yeah. And
So
I think it's funny on the little list that I sent you here. It talks about, where is it? On the contrary, many international bodybuilders started their workout at their preteens, and they're still above 6 feet. And I'm sitting there going, no, most bodybuilders are not above 6 feet.
this is true. Yeah. What's the percentage, anyways? Wait.
What
Um,
of pro bodybuilders above 6 feet?
no, I just want to see the height percentage of men in general. At least okay. So here's the U.S. Um, so to be 6 foot in the U.S. as a man, The hell's a one sec? This website's dumb.
Is it just
Yeah,
giving
so
you a percentage?
you'd be the 84th percentile. So only 16% of men in the U.S. are above 6 foot, and then the big
Get
number
logged on.
that women like is 6'3". So six foot is a big one, but women also really like 6'3", and only 2% of men are 6'3" or higher.
Am I in the 1% with 6'4"?
I'm sure.
Give
You
me that
are.
1 percentile.
Yep, you're in the top 1%.
Yeah, buddy.
So
Lightweight.
that's 99 inches. Yeah. So yeah, for females, 1% as well. 1% probably like 6 foot, to be honest. Let me check.
Yeah, probably.
Yep, 6 foot still. 6 foot is still 1%. So excuse me. Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. But yeah, so it's just it's a very, very common myth. There's so many common myths in bodybuilding, and more come out every single day.
Yeah.
There's this guy recently that came out and was like, "Oh, I eat 100 eggs a day, and this is how I build muscle." And it's like, no, you don't. You don't do that shit. Well, and that's
Yeah.
not that. Yeah, it's just like it's shit like that creates these myths, that don't make any sense.
If you eat all of the eggs in a farm, you will succeed.
You'll probably have a heart attack from all that fat. Is probably what'll happen. But the next myth that's on that list, it's one of the biggest myths out there, especially in the US, I think, is people trying to spot remove fat from a
Mm-hmm.
specific area through different ways of training, where that will never happen. You will never be able to spot lose fat. It's not
Yeah.
possible. And any company that claims that is blatantly lying to you. There's a big one. What's
I was
that?
going to say the only way you can spot remove is surgery.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. You'd have to get it surgically removed. You can't go about it natural ways. There's a company called Sweet Sweat that makes products that help you sweat. It started off with like this like paste kind of thing that you rub around your body, and it like creates this layer over your skin that like insulates you, so that like you're sweating more. Your
Yeah.
body thinks it's hotter than it is, which makes sense if you want to lose water. But they came out with this like waist trainer kind of thing that like you put around your waist, and it's like supposed to help. It's like basically just a layer of clothing, essentially just around your waist, and it makes you sweat more there. But it's not like just because you sweat more doesn't mean you're going to lose fat there. And they say that it helps losing fat in your belly, and it's like, no, that's literally. And even when you lose water from sweat, it's like a general water throughout your entire body.
Can
It's
you can you imagine seeing someone's outfit where their top half up is completely dry, then their stomach is drenched with sweat, and then their pants
yeah,
are
it's just
completely dry?
yeah, it's just super super soaked. Like walking around or something. Like when you're doing crunches, it's like that like noise when you're walking in wet shoes, like
Oh.
when you're doing crunches. That'd be gross. And just doesn't work that way either.
Yeah,
So
I think that's people think that a lot when they train abs, because they'll or I guess core in general, because obliques too, where they're like, if I spam these Russian twists, I'm gonna have no fat there.
yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Like, you will
And
add muscle there, but your fat is purely dependent on your cardio and your diet.
right,
That's purely what that is,
right, and
generated
that's why
by.
they say your abs are made in the kitchen, which is like
Yeah.
mostly true. It's probably like 70-30, like 70% of it is the kitchen, 30% of it is training. Maybe a little higher, maybe like 80%, but it's all about your fat percentage. That's all your abs are. Obviously, you're going to
See,
need size in your abs, but you need to lose the fat.
that just we're not going to go in order, because with this conversation is just right on. But the sixth one on this list is literally talking about abs and how
Yep.
sit-ups and crunches. They say sit-ups and crunches. I'll say like sit-up crunches, leg lifts, scissor kicks. Like, it gets a lot more. There's a lot more exercises that people spam when you get into the higher levels of the gym. But
Hmm.
for early on, sit-ups are 100% what people claim for it. But it's like, this is the best way, or this is the only way to get six-pack abs, and you need to do this, when in reality you can get six-pack abs from diet and just compound core movements. Like,
Yeah.
you can get ab engagement from squatting if you wanted to. Like,
Yeah, it's
it's
activating your core.
yeah, like, and as long as your diet is in like tuned in towards, low fat, high protein, you'll be able to get your pack.
Yeah, as long as you're aiming to lose the fat that you have,
Yeah.
it'll get more developed. And one of the things that kind of stuck with me was I was watching this video and they were talking about, like, so when it comes to bodybuilding, you don't want to build up your obliques because it'll widen your waist. So you want to avoid hitting your obliques. You just want to hit your abs. Your obliques will build naturally throughout just like training, core, back, chest, stuff like that. Anything that requires upper body stability is going to train your obliques. But when it comes to actually ab training, you'd kind of want to avoid obliques in general, just to not make, you don't really want to hit hypertrophy is what I mean. But when it comes to like your actual abs, you want to hit a hypertrophy. And what was interesting was this video is from Ben Yanes, and he was talking about, he was like, why would you treat abs any differently than any other muscle group if you're trying to hit hypertrophy? He's like, because people will be like, oh, I do like 100 sit-ups, 3 sets or whatever. And it's like, why? You don't do like 100 push-ups for 3 sets for your main movement for your chest. So why would you do that for your abs? So he was arguing that, like, just train them you would any other muscle group. And that's kind of the approach that I've started to take, is like basically just like cable crunches essentially is all I've been doing. I put down like a little yoga mat that the gym has, and I do cable crunches and just like kind of squeeze as hard as I can at the bottom of the rep. And that's really how I train it now. And I don't really write it down, but I mentally take note of where I was weight and rep wise, so that I can actually hit progressive stimulus and build it through progressive overload over time. So that's how you build abs. You don't have to do just body weight for a million reps. Nothing else builds that way.
I used to be victim of that mindset. I would, back in my PF days when I would work out with the group of people that I was working out with, I would tell them every day we're going to go do core. And like every workout I went and did core, and every workout I would force them to do. I mean, we got into the hundreds for sit-ups.
Yeah. It just, like, you can get a good burn and a good pump, but you're not necessarily hitting hypertrophy as effective as possible. And you're just spending so much time doing it too.
Well, if you did like, I switch to, whenever I do sit-ups, it's going to be like on a decline, so I'm able to lift myself upwards, and then I'll throw a plate or two on my chest, and that way, I'm actually giving it turns into resistance training at that point.
I would just be careful of your knees. That's all, because your tendons in your knees and your joints could be taking a lot of load from the weight that you're lifting.
But I wear knee sleeves for sit-ups. I'm hard as fuck.
You put out like a bench press suit, whatever the hell powerlifters wear.
Yeah.
It's like, and you just do like 10 reps of like with like 90 pounds in your chest for ab crunches. Got to keep that core strong. You put on a slingshot for some reason. Like, no reason for a slingshot, but you just put it on. You're just like, yes.
Elbow pads and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that shoes. It's that video of that old guy in the gym, and he does that aggressive, like, and then goes and does.
Yeah. Oh shit, what's his name? It's like Beast, like his like Instagram's like Beast or some shit, like John Beast or some shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that dude kills me, man. He kills me.
That would be something he would do.
What's funny to me is like when people like talk about what's actually going on in the video. So somebody was like, he was getting ready for a leg extension, and he's like, the guy starts recording, and he's just like, or whatever the fuck he does, and he sits down, does his leg extension, gets up, and like does like the air guitar thing he does, and then the guy stops recording, and top comment goes, all of that for 3 reps on leg extensions. I'm like, damn, he's not kidding. He really did do just 3 leg extensions for that. It was so funny. So it's funny when they call it out. But yeah, that's I could see him doing something like that, like putting on this gear. I also wonder, apparently somebody commented on one of his videos that. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys, we just had a technical difficulty, just some internet issues. But with that being said, we'll continue where we are. So we're talking about that John Beast guy, and so with the comments, right? Somebody commented like exactly what's going on. So he does like his fucking thing, and then he sits, he like
which is
sits
so
down.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it just like it doesn't make, I don't know. Anyways, if that's what makes him happy, then whatever. As long as he's not hurting anybody. Then he
He's
sits
hurting
down and
himself.
yeah, he really is, but that's on him. So he sits down in the leg extension, right? Does his set, gets back up, does his fucking air guitar thing, whatever the hell he does. It depends on each video is a little different. And he records like 4 times every single fucking session. But
Yeah.
he sits back, he gets back up, stops recording. Somebody goes, all of that just for 3 reps on leg extension. And I'm like, holy shit, he's not kidding. Because I watched it back. He did this whole setup, this fucking thing and fucking air guitar and all that. Gets into the leg extension, 1, 2, 3, and gets up and is done. I'm like,
leg extension PR.
yeah, for real. I'm like, dude, you did 3. Like, it's funny to me. And then he does like that thing in the locker room, like with the pen. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you got to go to his Instagram. It's so good. So he has like this pen thing. He like pokes his finger and he's like, he does like this weird fucking noise, right? So I'm like going into the comments, I'm like, what is he doing? Because I've never seen this like little device thing. And somebody said it's electric acupuncture. So like he's like shocking his fingers with this fucking acupuncture thing. He's like reacting to it, but he like records himself doing it. It's so weird. It's so odd. I don't know what his Instagram is.
It's John Beast mode. I'm on it right now.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the bathroom thing you're
yeah.
talking about.
He's standing in the he's standing in the locker room and he does it. So if you see a locker room video, that's probably what it is. Yeah. There we go. There's one right there. I got to fucking sign in. Damn it.
Oh, I got it right here. Yeah. He's talking in this video. You can't even hear him.
Oh, damn. Okay. But yeah, he let me see if I can sign in here on my Instagram. On my computer. It's like this weird acupuncture thing. I don't know what the hell he's doing. But yeah, it's just so funny.
Oh my
And it's
god.
like I feel bad because like
here, I'll just send it to you. Oh my god.
I'm pulling it up right now. Here, I got
it. That's hilarious.
Okay, this is just a photo. It's not playing anything. What the hell? There we go. Okay, that's like lifting. Okay, he just took a photo and posted it in the locker room. That's interesting.
The one I sent you is the actual video.
Let me see. Yeah, it's that fucking thing. It's like this weird pen thing. The Beast 666.
Yeah. No idea what that is.
Somebody said it's like some sort of like acupuncture thing. Let me see. Somebody said he was absorbing the stored life essence of puny mortals who gazed upon and were blinded by his almighty triceps.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
Yeah. I just feel bad because like I don't know what the hell's going on with him mentally. But
well, I wonder if it's a character. Like, you know how people make characters for their online personas, like. But at the same time, look at everything he's wearing at the gym. Like, you don't show up unless you're like lifting gloves, the headphones he uses, like his whole getup, like that just seems like what he's lifting with.
I just found it. Electronic acupuncture pen. That looks exactly like it. I just
so
Googled
what?
It.
He's giving himself acupuncture treatment every workout.
I think it's like it doesn't actually like prick you like acupuncture does. I think it just like electrically shocks you. But it's also such a small pen, like it can't really be that powerful. So I think it's like a little bit of a shock, and
Is it
he
to
just
like stimulate your nerve system to give you better, I don't know, grip strength?
I have no idea why he does it. I can't even begin to understand because they say it's like it's like supposed to
Shit,
help with
shit
fatigue and shit.
is is that what I should have been doing for my hand recovery?
Yeah, you should have got John Beast mode and like, bro, can I have some locker room acupuncture sessions with you to fix my hand, please? I'll drive out to
hand
you.
hand is healed in 1 week, confirmed.
Bro, I would not be surprised if like he has like a 3 million DMs of people asking for him to train them. Like out of like the meme. Like that would be I'm sure he's got a million of those.
I mean, he's got like 30,000 followers for just no reason. Like,
he's fucking verified, dude. He's verified on Instagram. I remember this dude had like 1,000 followers. I remember that.
Yeah, he's
like
blown up.
Yeah, just because of these fucking videos. Like, I'm gonna click this one. Yeah, here's his fucking leg extension again. He's always doing his leg extension. He always has a napkin that rubs his nose for some shit. Like, for some reason. Like, why is his nose leaking that much?
It's from all that acupuncture, you know?
Yeah, he's just draining out his nose. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He did 8 reps. Okay.
Okay, so that's little set, I guess.
That's a big set for him. 8 reps is a shit ton for him. Dude, this is the video of old footage. He's recording another phone. It's a video of another phone. He posted it a week ago.
I think I saw that.
Apparently somebody said like in the comments on like one of his videos that like they go to the same gym. This is a while ago that I saw this, like a few months ago. Apparently they go to the same gym as this guy, and like he never cleans the clothes that he wears. Like he comes in and like changes into them.
And just
So
leaves
like
those clothes there.
yeah, so like apparently like he fucking reeks because of that.
Oh,
Like
gee.
he never cleans them. But it looks like he's got a new getup. It says Headbanger Ball, the tour, MTV tour.
Yeah, it
It's all
looks like a
black.
bunch of old 80s, 90s metal and hair metal bands
Yeah.
t-shirts.
Yeah, like Slayer. He wears that Slayer shirt all the time. He's got like these gray
Yeah.
shorts. Um,
Which those are surprisingly popular even in regular lift. I see so many either rock and roll or metal shirts in the gym. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't see it too much down here, but it might be the gym that I go to. But I'm glad that we're also done the Gymshark fucking wave. Like that was awful.
that'll
Where
come around
everyone
again.
fucking, I'm sure, but apparently the guy who owns Gymshark is like one of the youngest billionaires in the UK or some shit. Like he's
Oh,
like
I believe it.
29. He's
I mean,
29 and he's worth $1 billion.
he basically monopolized gym clothing for a good 3-4 years. Like
Yeah, just
he
straight.
completely took it over.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he's smart. It was smart with it.
Well, it's
He
all the
sponsored.
sponsorship deals. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Like
yeah.
that's how he really was able to take off because like regular people were able to pick up sponsorships as long as they had a
Hmm.
social media following, and that just took off.
Yeah, yeah. It was. There's like the affiliate marketing, and then there's like the actual big name sponsorships. So it makes me wonder like where the money came from that like allowed him to
I
pay
mean,
for these sponsorships because
he probably
I mean,
had
Vince
prior
was.
investors. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I wonder if any of it came from family money. Like almost like I would say good most like huge corporations started from like family money.
Yeah.
Like Gymshark, I'm sure might be one of them where like, he's like a billionaire, but like he might have started with like being a millionaire because of his family and he like put in like 2-3 million into
I
the
took a
business to like get it
small loan
started.
of $1 million.
Yeah, like exactly. Like that's exactly like granted $1 million to start a global corporation or global company is not a lot of money.
Correct.
So like what's funny too, just as a side tangent thing, is that when Trump said it's a small loan $1 million, like we're talking proportionately small. Like we're talking
Yeah.
like $1 million for like the idea of an enormous company. So $1 million at the time was not much to get it started. And then he
Yeah.
turned it into like 4 billion or some shit. Like it was like that's what he means by small loan is proportionately. But $1 million to the average person is obviously a shit ton of money. But like a loan of $1 million for a gym is a shit ton. Like that's a lot of money. Like I could build a solid ass gym for like 500K. like
Yeah.
with like state of the art equipment for 500K, including cardio equipment. So like $1 million for a gym is a decent amount of money. But to start a global brand is really not that much. I mean, that shit will go out like that and just marketing. Like you could seriously spend for someone. I could tell you for a fact from someone who works in marketing, I can tell you can spend as much money as you want on marketing and advertising. So that shit can go like a light bulb. But to get back into what we were saying, we're talking about what were we talking about?
This
That led us
all
to John
stemmed.
Beast.
This all stemmed from abs somehow. So
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you don't want to be doing a shit ton. Ideally, you want to be hitting hypertrophy just like you would with anything else. You do want to be careful of your knees though, with what you were saying before. But
yeah, with weighted sit-ups. Yeah.
yeah, my knees can't handle shit anymore, man. Like,
Oh, that's where it came from. I wear knee sleeves for sit-ups.
yeah,
That's where it
that guy
came
wears
from.
knee sleeves for everything. Yeah. John Beastman would do some shit like that.
Yep.
Where he'd wear all right, there we go. That's where it was. But let's see what else we got here. Also turning into fat if you don't work out for a month or more. That's such a bullshit thing. Yeah, you might like lose some muscle and your muscle density might go down. But
But it won't turn into fat. Like
yeah, it's not.
that is again purely based on your diet. It's not based on, your workout regimen.
Yeah, and it doesn't like it's not like your fat cells all of a sudden your like muscle cells all of a sudden become fat cells. Like
I'm
they can't just convert
transitioning
like that.
from I'm transitioning from a muscle cell to a fat
I
cell.
identify as
Please respect my decision.
if you don't, you're going to jail, straight to jail. Yeah, please refer to me as Mrs. Fat Cell. I'm no longer Mr. Muscle Cell. I'm transitioning. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't just become a fat cell.
And
So
another
that's
thing
annoying.
from that too, like just based on the picture right there, like uh I think another big thing is that people think that people who do a lot of gaming can't be muscular because your body is like in seated positions for long periods of time. But Paul and
Yeah.
I are both avid gamers, so we can completely attest to the opposite side of that. That
Mhm.
that's just part of your life because you're only spending an hour or two in the gym each day, and you spend however long you spend dieting and cooking and whatnot. So you can spend the rest of your time doing whatever you want. And in fact, it's if anything, you're just allowing your body to be at rest because you're just sitting or laying down
Mhm.
playing video games or whatever. So if anything, that as long as you make time for your actual routine of eating and working out, gaming has absolutely no impact on unless you're doing it for like 12-hour binges every day.
Yeah, obviously that's not good, but that was tied to like the like YouTuber thing, like back in like the early 2010s roughly, when everybody wanted to be a YouTuber. There's this whole thing where like you get fat and like it's not good for you and it's unhealthy and stuff, but it's like there's actually a lot of YouTubers that were like pretty jacked at the time,
Yeah.
and they still kind of are. Like one of the ones that I watched pretty avidly at the time, long before I ever stepped in the gym, was Vanoss Gaming, and
Oh yeah.
he did a face reveal for the ALS challenge, and dude was fucking yoked. Like, but if you think about it, like these gamers who play professionally or they do YouTube videos and stuff, especially if they're bigger, they'll have somebody editing their videos, which takes most of the time. So like if you're, out of like, let's say like a full-time job for YouTubing or being a YouTuber, most of it's spent editing. So since he's probably not editing any of his videos, um, he could spend maybe 3 or 4 hours getting actual footage while gaming, and he has the rest of the day. So why wouldn't he go to the gym as well? You know what I mean? So it only makes sense that like you have the time to also focus on yourself as well, because you're only playing for 4 hours and that's your whole fucking job outside of like running businesses and shit. But um, it was just a
I'm
common misconception.
I just looked at it because I hadn't seen the reveal since I stopped watching Vanos Gaming a while back.
Yeah.
He is shredded.
Which one are you looking at? The ALS challenge thing?
No, there's a picture he posted of him, must be like an airport because he's got luggage around him, and just he's got wide shoulder frames, filled out sleeves, like his jawline is pretty crisp too. Like that is a pretty
Where
big dude.
Where is this?
I just looked up Vanos Gaming Face, and it's you'll see it. There's a tan background behind it.
Let me see. Well, there's.
Or the one of him just in a suit, like that shows a pretty fit form too.
Oh yeah, there we go. He's wearing a sweatshirt.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, you could tell he lifts. I mean, he was like semi-pro hockey player or something like that before he got into gaming,
Yeah.
and YouTube and all that. But so there's also that too. But that kind of helped him get to the place he is physically. But it's just an interesting like misconception that people have. Looking at him now, he's definitely lost a lot of size.
Yeah.
He has evanfong.vanos.rinks because Rinks is like I think is like his like artist name for like music. Um, but yeah, he's I don't think he really focuses on the gym at all anymore. It doesn't really look like it unless it's just the clothing that he wears. Um,
It can be
but
tough to being successful in a different field. It can be tough to spend the time going back in and actually working out and doing your proper dieting and everything.
yeah, yeah, it can be difficult. Yeah, looking at one that was like about 6 months ago, like he just looks like an average guy. He might hit the gym, but he doesn't look like he really focuses on it at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you could tell he's got like slight cap delts a little bit. Like he's kind of lost some size, really.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, it's interesting at least to see that like it's not always the case that like just because you're kind of sitting around doesn't mean that you're not getting big. There's that video, I don't know if you saw it. I think I sent it to you where it was like guy lifting like super hard at the gym, and it was like right when I get home, and it's like this guy tunneling down to Minecraft like with like Minecraft music, and it's like that's how it is. It's like intense at the gym, but then you get home, he's kind of chill and play some games
Yeah.
or read or whatever, watch some TV, whatever it is.
And I
Um,
think another thing too for the muscle turning into fats myth, like I'm living through that procedure right now where I can't do my full workout regime because of my broken hand and everything, and yet it's not that my muscles are turning into fat. It's that either they're going to they're going to become smaller because I'm not putting in the same work or not targeting them the same, but they're not just going to turn into fat. Like I'm not going to enlarge from what's going on right now. So
yeah, yeah, and like I was saying, when you had that incident with your hand, was like this is the time to like I guess kind of like do a slight recomp a little bit, like kind of just like lose. Like you were already like really lean prior to working with Alex, but like if you guys had the time to like put in like some time to like drop like a percentage of fat or something, like now would be the time where you just do
we're actually
cardio, eat
focusing
healthy.
on the opposite. We're focusing on continuing to add more and more.
Interesting. Okay.
We actually
Um,
added a mass chaser to my diet.
which is what?
So it's a mass gainers, but it's the particular brand that he sells, and it's athletic or athlete something. But yeah, mass chaser athlete something. It's just a better brand because the sugar content isn't as high, because
Yeah.
so often with mass gainers you're looking at like 35-40 grams of sugar.
Hmm.
This one caps at like 22, which is nice. um
What brand?
it's
I'm trying to see if
i
I can find it
I
right
don't know.
now.
It starts with athlete something, athlete devotion maybe, I don't know.
I want to look it up. I want to see the nutrition label.
Oh, there it is.
Is it
Mass
Gaspari?
No, let me open it up. Mass Chaser. What is this? Mass Chaser from.
Oh, Project Ad.
It's got a pink label on it.
Yeah, 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 Project Ad. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good brand. They're a good brand. Their GDA is
yeah.
pretty good.
We added that to try and, well, I was missing meals a lot too,
Yeah,
because of my work schedule and moving and everything. So we added that in to kind of get me there.
yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to see if I can pull up the label here. Kind of hard. Oh, there it is. Okay. How many scoops do you have? One or two?
2 scoops per serving.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
added
go off the
sugars.
500 calorie one.
Yeah, so 25 grams of protein, 118 grams, which is the mass shot gain complex, which is just mainly protein, MCT
Yep.
oil powder. So there's
It's
some
got
fat in there.
carbs up the wazoo.
Carb 10, which is pea starch. So they put pea starch in there for a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all mass gainers are. Oh, and then dextrose, tapioca starch, and dextrose. That's all mass gainers are. It's just carbs.
Yeah.
But damn, fucking $60 for 15 servings. That's ridiculous. That's $4 a serving. Granted, that's a whole meal. I mean, if you treat it like a meal, it's really not too bad.
Yeah, in theory, it replaces a meal. I bolster like my diet with it, but some days, like yesterday, with the wedding, like I just left the house, and by the time I got back, I had no energy to make anything, so I substituted.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a good brand. They work a lot with Unchained Athletes, the team that I'm on. They work a lot with Mike, the guy who runs it. So he like really promotes them and has a lot of their products in his gyms and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good brand. They like I said, their GDA is pretty good. It's not the best GDA on the market. The best GDA on the market is not even like a fitness brand. It's called Matador, the glucose disposal agent. Matador. It's pretty good. But it's very sought after, so it's hard to get it in stock.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, it's tough to like you'll hold on to it. You're not gonna lose. You're not gonna like you might gain some fat by not lifting or whatever, but it's not like you're gonna lose all of your muscle. If you're on,
I'm gonna turn into the Michelin Man.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen overnight, and at the same time, if you're recovering from something, your body's gonna put a lot of energy and calories towards it. So
Yep.
if like a lot, it happened a lot during COVID. Where guys like became lazy and started eating and shit, and like they put on a lot of fat, but they just look like they just got buff. Is really what it looked like. It's not like they lost all their muscle. Especially if the older you are, the more dense your muscle is going to be. So like on the younger side, yeah, it's more superficial. So you might like in quotations lose some muscle because it's not super dense. But like these guys are like 30 and they took like 4 months off just eating like shit, but then they get back in the gym and all of a sudden just drop all of it, because it's just they're getting back to where they were. So COVID was kind of the perfect time to put on weight if you wanted to put on weight. But I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal. You'll get back to where you were, and get back to like you're gonna have no problem get back to where you were.
I'm actually up in weight now, which is great. For the longest time couldn't break I was plateauing at 200 even with coach, and my weigh-in this morning, last week was 201, this morning was 201.6, so
nice.
Slowly getting there.
Yeah, I weighed in 202.7 this week, which when I have the money, I'm going to be getting test prop, which we talked about briefly. So when I get on that cycle, I'm going to start losing some fat and maintaining muscle. I respond very, very well to Masteron, so that'll be very fun. I can't wait to get on that, and I'll be looking good for fucking Florida, dude. I can't wait.
Hell yeah.
Because I'm already like starting this next cycle. I'm at a decent place as far as mass goes. Like I've honestly gained probably way too much mass. Like he said this over a week ago. Coach said, all right, let's pull back because you've put on enough mass, and I'm putting on even more now. And like I could feel it in my back, like my back and my shoulders are starting to like twitch when I'm sitting at home. So I'm like, all right, I'm putting on some fucking muscle right now. It's ridiculous. And my stretch marks are getting bad. I got stretch marks right where my teres major minor is, and like my rear delt. So it's like those are getting more gnarly. So I definitely need to pull back on that and just start losing some fat because I've definitely put on a few percentages of fat. But moving on, speaking of that, actually, there's another myth that you have to take steroids to build an aesthetic physique, which is not the case. It's not always true.
What do you mean? I know I have to take steroids if I want to look good. What are you talking about?
Tren is like when you start in the gym. You're starting when you take Tren.
You shouldn't even be in the gym if you're not taking test.
Yeah, it's like they're like, dude, I just want to make sure that like the billing was set at Planet Fitness, and then I'd start taking Tren. I'm like, I was ready. This shit's sitting in my car, and it's like.
Can you imagine taking anabolics and going to PF?
I mean, Okay, there are a couple pros that do go to PF on the reg, but it's all men's physique guys.
And
And
it probably has to be sponsorship based too.
no, I don't think they would sponsor an athlete like that because that's not the athlete they want to portray. I mean, they were making fun of those guys in fucking commercials, you know? They're making fun of
Yeah.
bodybuilders in commercials. I think it's just like it's whatever is convenient. And let me tell you, like looking at gyms down here in the Carolinas, if you're not near like a pretty busy city, there's fucking nothing. So if you have nothing near you besides a Planet Fitness, and that's where you got to go. I mean, it's just what you got to do.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I get that, but most times, if you're at the success level of professional bodybuilding, you have options available.
Yeah, chances are. I also think that if you are competing professionally, I think you should also rearrange your priorities and most likely move closer to a better gym. Not necessarily across a state or something like that, but like if you need to move a half hour to get closer to a gym, I think that that's an important thing to do, especially, like I said, competing professionally. If you're not competing professionally, then obviously don't bother. But um, like moving just to get closer to a specific gym. But if you plan on competing professionally or going to or are competing professionally, then the gym is going to matter. That's why I am kind of particular on the gym I go to because I plan on competing professionally. So I need to have the ability to maximize my potential.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to get back to it, you don't need an aesthetic type physique like in order to build one, I mean, you don't need anabolics. You don't need it to compete professionally and to get like the professional look. Yes, absolutely. But to get a good physique that when you're in public, people are going to, gawk at and wish they had. No, you don't need that. It's just going to take some time naturally and you'll get there. So
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes this myth believable, though, is that people will hit the gym for 3, 4 years and still not see what they want to see
yeah,
and claim this reasoning, when in reality, your grind needs to be probably closer to the 5 to 7 year range, if not longer, in order to truly get like that purely aesthetic look that's like the gym jaw or the beach jaw dropper. You know what I mean?
yeah, it would take a lot of time. And the thing with natural competitors too is that you need to focus on like you truly need to. So like steroids, the thing that steroids allows you to do is you can focus on building muscle and losing fat at the same time. It's possible, and that's what I'm able to do with Masteron. That's why I respond so well to it, and that's why I look leaner quickly is because I'm building muscle but also losing fat. So that's what steroids are able to do or help you do. Where when you're natural, you need to be focusing on entirely one or the other, putting on muscle or losing fat. You can't be focusing on both. That's the whole like power builder mentality is that like you want to gain
Yeah.
strength but also look good. It doesn't work that way. You got to do one or the other when you're natural. Otherwise, you're never going to make any progress because you're not eating enough to put on size, and you're not in enough of a deficit to lose fat. So you're going to be doing neither. So you got to embrace the bulk when you're putting on muscle. You're going to get fat. You're not going to feel like you look good in the mirror. You're going to lose your vascularity. Excuse me. All of that. But then when you're losing fat, you really need to embrace how difficult it's going to be. You're going to be eating what feels like close to nothing, and you're going to be doing a lot of cardio and a lot of lifting, most likely. So, in
And
in
also
both aspects.
eating the things that you probably aren't enjoying as much.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's going to be hard. I mean, obviously, prepping for a show is similar. You're not gonna want to do anything really, but like obviously, food's not going to taste the best when you're trying to lose weight. When you're
Yeah.
putting on weight, there's this whole joke that like you can eat whatever you want. You don't necessarily want to eat whatever you want because you're just going to put on fat that way. Um, but obviously, that's where a coach kind of comes in, telling you what to eat, what's ideal, all of that. But you don't need steroids to have an aesthetic physique. It's not true. Anybody who blames steroids for them not having a good physique um, is kind of skimping out on their responsibilities. My natural genetics were not very good, but if I put in another 5, 6 years naturally, I could have gotten to a good place with a coach's guidance. I could have gotten to an aesthetic place. Could I really compete? Probably not. I probably wouldn't even be able to compete naturally in natural divisions because I just don't have good genetics. But could I get a good physique as far as the general public goes? Absolutely. Could I probably get abs? Absolutely. But it just would take more time and more dedication for me personally. Some guys do have really good natural genetics, though. And if you do, you know who you are. And you're going to put on muscle and lose fat like no tomorrow. And I'm very jealous of you. So
I think this myth also kind of makes the argument that people think that once you take steroids, any kind of anabolics, you just automatically become that aesthetic. I think that's where this comes from too, because people think that, all right, you're going to pin once and then you're going to be just C-bum. That's where you go from.
Yeah.
You go from regular dad bod to C-bum with a single pin. Like, that's all you need.
Did you hear C-bum has a dad bod now? Do you see that video?
No, that can't be real.
This guy goes around asking girls what they like in men, and she said like dad bods and stuff, and he showed C-bum in his off season. She's like, yeah, that's perfect. That's a dad bod right there. And
Jesus.
This dude looks at the camera, and he's like, Chris Bumstead has a dad bod? Well done for. There's no way we can't compete. So it was funny because it's like the joke now is that C-bum has a dad bod in the off season.
You know, I was just going to Instagram to check if he actually had a dad bod.
No. It was like one of the, I think he was like in Iceland or some shit coming out of like a
when he did his skiing trip.
Yeah, like something like that. It was, you could tell it was winter and he was coming out of a sauna. So he showed that video or photo and they were like, yeah, he's got a dad bod. It was literally just like he's just buff. Like that's all it was. He's just buff as hell. So they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a dad bod," and
it's over for us.
Yeah, we're done, dude. There's no way now. There's no way. But yeah, so that's what pisses me off about steroids is that like just because somebody's taking steroids doesn't mean they just automatically blow up. You know, it's not like because a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it's trial and error. It's going to take time and on top of that, like there's periods where it'll actually take a while to be in your system. It take a while to be out of your system. You got to run blood work and all that. Like there's so much to it. It's a whole nother ball game. Like you really need to take it to the next level and dedicate much more of your mind to it when you start taking shit. And on top of that, it's not like you take it and you don't have to work hard in the gym. It's like you gotta like, yes, there's been studies that show that like if you don't lift, you gain muscle. We've talked about it, but like when you're in the gym, you really need to be working much, much harder or else you're just going to like fuck your organs. But on top of that, you can't be taking this shit forever. And what's your number one muscle in your body, essentially? Do you know off the top of your head? What's the number one muscle we have?
Well, it's our back. Our back is our biggest muscle.
Well, I was looking for heart. Your heart is your number one muscle. So your heart's
in terms of like usage, yes,
functionality and usage. Your heart is your number one muscle.
My calves are my number one.
My calves need work. It's like that guy's like, "What's your red flag?" And he's like, "My calves." And he's like, "No, I mean like emotionally or like mentally, just like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, my head's in the gym right now." But so it's where was I going with this? Oh my gosh, I just lost my entire train of thought. What were you talking about?
We were just talking about the most used muscle.
Yes, your heart. Yes, sorry. Heart. So when you're taking steroids, you're also building your heart up. Your heart's getting bigger and bigger. So you can't take this shit forever, or else you're going to build plaque in your heart and you're going to build your heart way too big. And
I won't stop until my heart is an elephant.
Yeah, basically what ends up happening. Your heart gets fucking the size of a bowling ball and explodes. That's how most bodybuilders die.
I was going to say that's why so many of heart attacks happen in bodybuilding.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just a common misconception with it. And the other thing with it too is that less is more. So when you're people talk about, oh, I'm taking grams of the shit and all that. There's a common misconception where the more you take, the more effective it's going to be. So when you start taking shit and somebody's like, you should be taking a gram of this, that's just way too much. Like most guys are under a gram, where if you're talking about it's not the O is obviously a different ball game because they're going to be taking grams of shit, where guys who aren't on the O shouldn't be taking it. It's just depending on the stage that you're stepping on. So that's another misconception with steroids is the actual dosages that you're taking. And like tren is like one of those. It's like you really should be not taking so much tren because it's so harsh on your fucking liver. And there's this whole joke like, oh, I'm going to take like 500 milligrams of tren. It's like, dude, like 150, 200 is like the sweet spot for most guys. And on top of that, you really shouldn't be taking it anyways. It's like one of those where like most bodybuilders will agree is like kind of not worth it. So
it's
something to
the
keep in
it's
mind.
the mentality where when if you miss a meal, you package all your meals together, and that way you still hit your calorie total. If you miss a day of tren, you're gonna do it all the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Like that just shit. Like that shit just doesn't make any sense. There's another common misconception which I'll let you talk about in a second, or talk about whatever you want in a second. But is that just because you missed a meal doesn't necessarily mean you need to pack it on later. Like, don't just shove 3 meals together because you're gonna fuck your digestion. Your digestion is not used to digesting a bowling ball worth of fucking food. So don't do that to yourself. If you miss a meal, then you miss a meal and just write it down. You don't need to make up for it later. You missed a meal. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world, So
I'll certainly add a little bit of food if I miss a meal but I won't do a ton. Like I'm not going to package together 3 meals like Paul just said. Like sometimes I'll do if I miss what often happens is I don't make my first meal because I teach, and so when I wake up as early as I do, I'm just not able to make that first meal. And that first meal really isn't all that much. It's between 2 and 4 eggs, 2 pieces of toast, seeded bread toast, and some oatmeal, which really isn't a lot. So, in terms of the food that I'm actually eating, though, like it gives me a lot of good macros to start the day. But in terms of actual food I'm digesting, it's not all that much. So I will often throw that on when I get back from work, before the gym, or maybe after the gym, something like that, and just throw the food on then. And that way I'm able to package it together. But like if I miss that meal and then my lunch meal or my second meal, whatever you want to call it, and then package all that together, yeah, no, that's going to absolutely obliterate my digestion. And not just consuming it, but also pushing it out the other end. That is just a big oof. So definitely do not want to package it together like that. But if it's one small meal like that first one, I was saying, like my first meal is it gives me good macros to start the day, but it's a small amount of food. So I'll package that on at the end of the day or with another meal later on. But yeah, no bowling balls being put in my system.
yeah, I mean, if you need to make up for a meal, or like you want to make up for a meal, especially if you're writing your own meal plans, people will try to like, because there's this whole joke with like MyFitnessPal, right? Where it's like, oh, I didn't take in my calorie count and it's 11:59 and I have to get in 2,000 calories. And it's like a plate of just peanut butter, like with a spoon. Like, and then there's another one where it's like, when it's so like, it was funny. And there's another one that's similar where it's like when it's 5 p.m. and you've already eaten all your calories, but you want cereal really bad. And it's like water with ice and he's got in a bowl and with a spoon. And there's like 1 calorie left in MyFitnessPal. But if you miss out on a meal, the trick, I think one of the things that people really, really neglect is egg whites. So just have some egg whites. I drink it. Just drink a couple gulps of egg whites. It's not going to make up for a meal. I mean, it's not something that I do often, but like if you need to, take a couple gulps of egg whites, that'll get some protein in your system. And then you can get onto your next meal. Because then that way, like your body's not just digesting necessarily a solid food. It's digesting more of like a liquid, but then you get a lot of protein from it. Kind of like a protein
Yeah.
shake. You could have like a whey isolate. If you miss a meal, have a whey isolate or something like that to make up for the protein at least. But if you miss a lot of carbs and a lot of fat, just don't even bother. It's too much in your system.
What's your protein shake looking like? Just straight egg whites.
No, but like legit though, like there's times where this happened the other day. I forget what day it was. I went to go to the gym. I think it was yesterday actually. I went to go to the gym in the morning and I was going to work, make some money afterwards. So I needed to make sure that I had a meal afterwards to eat before I went to work. And so I was like, shit, I got to prioritize my chicken for that. So I prioritized my chicken for that and only had about 2-3 ounces left. So what I did was I just had egg whites instead of chicken. It's not the
Yeah.
best. It's not the best replacement, but at least I'm getting in the protein that I need. And egg white digestion is relatively quick. So you don't need to necessarily worry about like taking forever to digest like steak or beef does. Where with chicken, it's pretty quick. So egg whites is a good option for that, at least. Something to keep in mind, at least for when you're trying to make up for meals. It's not good for your digestion is what I'm saying. And I've done it in the past where I would go a whole day. There's one period where I had 5 meals a day with my previous coach. And there's times where I'd have 2 meals, but then I'd be like, working all day and I don't have time to eat. So when I get home, I'd have 3 meals at once and legit be like 2,500 calories of like clean food, which is a shit ton. And I'd
That's
be fucking
sometimes what's
gagging.
going on with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just avoid that if you could, because it's not good for you necessarily. If you have a big meal planned and, you're getting full or whatever, that's one thing. But like combining meals that you normally eat on a regular basis just really isn't as effective as you think it is. And like at the time I was eating like spaghetti and steak and all this shit that was like tasty because we're just trying to get into the gym and like build a good foundation. And I was fucking like trying to like finish my food. Like I was like eating spaghetti, which is one of my favorite meals. And I'm fucking gagging, just waiting for it to be over. Fucking
Yep.
eating steak, ate some good old rump steak that I got from a local farm. I miss that farm. And then what you need to drive down to fucking Athol and go to that farm and get
Yeah.
steak. And then eating spaghetti, just gagging, trying not to throw it up. It's so bad. Force feeding sucks so bad. And you got a rock sit in your stomach for the rest of the night. So
Yep.
it's a
Well,
bitch.
part of that is pain, which is another one of the myths that I was a big subscriber to. But if you aren't feeling pain, then you aren't progressing in the gym or you're not reaching hypertrophy, which isn't true because pain isn't what you're going for. You're going for, stressing the muscle. But if you reach pain, then you're kind of messing yourself up. Like, obviously we've talked about pushing past the pain barrier for like training legs or something like that. That's just mentally getting past a pain barrier. If you're actually hurting yourself in the gym, that's not how you should be handling it. So the fact of the
Yeah.
matter is, if you're feeling pain, you're probably messing up your form too. Like especially on like deadlifts or something where your form is so crucial. If you're feeling that lower back pain, you're probably messing up the form, and it's not something you should continue to do at the weight that you're doing.
Right. And here's the thing too, is that when it comes to, in quotations, pain, there's a difference between burning and pain. When a muscle
Exactly.
burns, it's supposed to. You're building up lactic acid and it's going to burn. But when you're causing pain to your joints, that's not good. I caused pain to my joints the other day because I went too high intense on my squats. And the second I felt pain in my knee, I fucking called it. I'm like, that's not supposed to happen. So I'm not going to keep lifting. Could I have done more reps? Absolutely. But am I going to keep doing reps? No, because I'm not going to do anything. I'm not gaining anything by just destroying my knee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it like that's also going to stem from like the difference between powerlifters as well and bodybuilders is that like a lot of them push through pain in their joints to get a lift up for a PR, because that's how they measure their success in the gym as a PR. Where with bodybuilding, it's not about the PR; it's about having a proper, efficient workout. And then that also like really segues really well into another topic, which is you didn't have a good workout if you're not sore, or you're like you need to be sore after a workout for you to know that it was like you actually gained muscle or you're going to be gaining muscle, and that's not the reality. It's so far from the truth.
if you
Soreness.
can't if you can lift your arm after arm day, you have failed.
It like people
If
talk
you
about
can
like
carry any groceries at all, you have failed.
if you can grip your steering wheel, you failed. Yeah, there's a whole misconception with that. Where with arms, especially, if you can't lift your arms, it's because you just got a crazy pump, which it's happened to me plenty of times. And you shouldn't necessarily be chasing the pump either. You shouldn't be measuring your workout based off how good your pump is. Yes, blood flow is one of the attributes of a good workout, but you don't want to be focusing on the pump. If you get a good pump from your workout, great. If not, doesn't mean you didn't get a good workout in. And when you can't lift your arms, that just means you're like, you just got such a crazy pump that it just burns to lift your arms. That's really all it comes down to. You can still lift your arms. But that's just how it works.
If you still have limbs after working out, you have failed.
If you're still mobile, you should just stop. Just cut it out. Just go home. But
the gym is not for you.
yeah, no. But for me, I face a problem with pumps actually pretty frequently. My coach is I think he's kind of in the same place. He told me that I should be doing this, and I did it once anyways. I learned the hard way that the reason I get nauseous and throw up from lifting for legs is because I get too gnarly of a pump in my quads to keep going. So my problem is that my quads get such a pump from blood flow that, so for those that don't know, the reason you puke from lifting is because you get so much blood flow in another part of your body. The first place it's going to pull from for that blood is your digestion. It's going to pull from your digestion in order to help with the blood flow in that muscle, because what your body is doing is going into flight or fight mode, right? So if you see runners, right, marathon runners, to train, a lot of them end up puking, right? A lot of them, like anybody who like interval trains, they end up puking because their body thinks that it's fighting for its life. And it's either in fight mode or flight mode. So it dispels everything it doesn't need, which is through the puke, and puts it towards what you need. So if you're going to be running, it's going to go towards your legs. If you're doing like interval training, it's going to be your back or whatever. If it thinks you're climbing something, whatever it is. So for me, my quads get such a pump so fast, so easily, I can't actually take a pre-workout, because if I do, after legit one movement, I'll start puking because it's just too much of a pump. And that's what happened a couple of weeks ago. I had a very bad leg day because I start with a warm up of leg curls, and I had my normal pre-workout because I'm like, this doesn't have, to backtrack a little bit, what I thought it was alpha yohimbine that was causing me to puke. So this new pre-workout I got from Recon 1 doesn't have alpha yohimbine or yohimbine in general. So I was like, all right, let me give this a shot. Let me see what happens. Worst possible situation, I learn something new. So I go to the gym, I do leg curls, perfectly fine. I get a good start, good warm up, not really to failure. Then I get into hack squats, and I do like Tom Platz inspired hack squats, all quad focused. Nice low stance of the machine. My knees are going almost to the fucking platform, like way past my toes, just destroy my quads. After I'm done that, I start setting up leg press for my glutes, and like I have to like double over because I'm going to fucking throw up. And I actually ended up leaving the gym and left all the weight on the fucking leg press because I'm like, if I focus on lifting anymore, I'm going to fucking puke everywhere. So It's a problem for me. So that's when pumps can actually be a problem, is that it pulls away from your digestion and you end up puking. So that's something to keep in mind when you are going for a pump, is that you might end up puking. It's possible.
If you still have anything left inside, you have failed.
That's a Tom Platz, dude. That's Tom Platz. He's like, I'd rather die than leave the gym a loser. I'm like, fuck, not me. I'd rather live, but all right. That's how intense you want it. That's on you.
I'm taking the L and being a loser.
Yeah, I will gladly be a loser and live to see another day. But it's all just mindset. Obviously, he's not going to die. Nobody's going to kill him if he has a bad workout. But yeah, it's a mindset to have. It can also be very toxic, so be careful of those mindsets. I am glad though that the We Go Gym phase is kind of over. That shit
Gym was spelled JIM for that. We Go Gym.
Yeah, We Go Gym. It stemmed from one video where the guy just yelled "We Go Gym" in the camera's face and played hard style. It was cool while it lasted, and then it just got like the high school kids kind of took it over, and it was like, okay, now I'm over it.
Yep.
It's all these kids got to ruin everything. First, it was like Fortnite; they had to ruin that shit. Then it was like Among Us, and they had to ruin that shit. Then
they ruined bench press. What's next?
They ruined the gym. Yeah, like there's this video I saw recently, and it was like when the We Go Gym kids are at the bench, and this guy like walks over, and there's a big pad on the bench, and pre-workout spilled all over it. And he was like, "Yo, who's using this?"
Jesus.
And then he like turns around, and is playing hard style, and this dude's got like elbow wrap like half undone. He's got a belt on, like a black wife beater and shit. And it's like it was like the WeGo gym kids like trying to take their bench back because they come in blocks of like 4 or 5 and just hog the bench for 3 hours and don't actually get in a good workout because they rest for so long in between sets and not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got so toxic so fast. And I think that might be part of the reason why I kind of bounced out of Elite was because there was a school bus that would stop at Elite and drop off like legit like 5, 6 kids. But I will give props to one kid, a redhead kid who was skinny. He's still kind of skinny last I saw him, but he was the only one who'd show up on the weekends. He was the only one I ever saw on a regular basis. So he was the one who was the most serious. Where during the weekdays his friends would show up, but then the weekends I'd see him. I'm like, all right, I got respect for you. But
yeah,
that's a different ball. That's a different conversation. But yeah, it's just, and then also okay. Whoo! Oh, here's a big one. Okay.
He's charging up.
Oh, dude, this is a big one. Is the whole common misconception where your pre-workout is more effective if you dry scoop it.
Oh my god. I hate this one.
That shit.
I have some of the most respect for this one girl that works out in the area I do, and she is an absolute unit in the gym. I have some of the most respect for her, also as a person too, but she dry scoops sometimes, and she'll post it. And it takes everything in me not to comment, what the hell are you doing? What the hell even is that?
Yeah, what the hell even is that? Wait, Daddy, chill. What the hell? Wait, what was he? What is it? What the hell is even that?
What the hell even is that?
Yeah. Daddy, chill. It's so dumb though. It just it one goes to show the lack of knowledge because you're so long.
Water, the water what water does for it is it allows it to flow into throughout your body and connect with your bloodstream. If you dry scoop it, you're forcing just whatever moisture molecules you have in your mouth to do that job for you. Like, that's like the cinnamon challenge. You're gonna gag.
Yeah, it just doesn't. So okay, you read any label on any pre-workout, they say to have 8 to 12 ounces of water or 16, however big the scoop is.
Yeah,
15 to 30 minutes prior to working. Some of them say 20, some of them say 40, whatever it is. There's a reason that those are the directions because what it's supposed to do. The best way to take your pre-workout, right? This is the best way to take it. This is from my experience. I don't do it this way. I don't prep my pre-workout, but the best way to take it is, in my opinion, is you want to make your pre-workout in a like relatively big jug of water or whatever, like a full size blender bottle, right? That's like 16 ounces or whatever. Make it in that, shake it up, shake it up a few times, put it in the fridge, put it to the side, whatever, for like a day, right? So like make it for tomorrow or something, right? Let that sit for a while. Then shake it like once when you wake up, and then shake it before you actually plan on going to the gym. That way the pre-workout is insanely dissolved, like just completely gone. There's no powder left. It's just all liquid. And the reason you want it to be dissolved is because your body's going to digest it better. Your body doesn't digest powders. It just doesn't. It does, but it takes a lot longer, and you want this to be in your system. So for me, my drive to the gym is about 12 to 14 minutes, depending on traffic. So I make sure my pre-workout's dissolved, I drink it, and then I head to the gym. Where this dry scooping thing is, they dry scoop it, they're like, oh, it hits you instantly. And it's like, yeah, you might get like somewhat of like a caffeine rush because it's literally being absorbed by your glands in your mouth, your moisture, like your actual like glands, your saliva glands. It's like smoking a cigar or cigarette, whatever. Like, yeah, you'll feel it because it's being absorbed by your mouth, but it's not going to last. So you're going to get this caffeine rush and then it's going to be gone. So you want to take it and then head to the gym and then start. Like, you don't want to be taking it in the parking lot of the gym either. I hate that shit. They take it, they dry scoop it in the parking lot and then fucking head in. It's like, dude, you should be start lifting like 20, 30 minutes after you took it, So I hate that shit. That shit's so annoying.
Yep.
I hate dry
scoopers. And it's just frustrating to see too, because if you're in the gym, you generally speaking, and we're going to say outside of PF, generally speaking, when you go to the gym, you have an understanding of what you're there to do. And when you see some dumb shit like that just like that that will put me in a negative mind space when I'm in the gym, because I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm like, why is this person doing this? So you're going to be affecting others as well. You think it looks cool, it doesn't. It really does not look cool. It's just like this. I mentioned it earlier, the cinnamon challenge. It doesn't look cool.
It's not, you're not hardcore. Like it was like this whole thing where it's like, oh, you're like badass if you could dry scoop pre-workout, and you're not. You look like an idiot. And especially the first few times you tried it, you definitely like fucking cough and have like a dust powder come
Yeah.
out. Like I imagine that, and it makes me happy. Like a cloud of pre-workout just just comes out and like messes up your car. That's what I imagine. And if you get
Where do you
pre-workout powder anywhere, it's sticky. Trust me, it's sticky.
Where do you get your pre-workout? Oh, I secondhand smoke my pre-workout from people who cough it.
That's gonna end up being a thing, dude. You smoke? I roll it up in a joint and smoke my pre-workout.
Oh my god,
that's gonna be a thing. And I'm sure people have snorted shit too.
That's like the video of Theo Von. He's like, my favorite kind of weed. It was cocaine.
Yeah, Theo Von is a different animal though. One of my favorite clips ever, which I've seen in gym memes, is like, it's like when you're walking to the gym and there's nobody there. It's like, oh yes, just makes you want to kick a fat kid in Kmart. You know what I'm saying? Praise God. Like that's perfectly encapsulates what it feels like. It just makes you want to kick a fat kid in Kmart. Like it just fucking
praise
perfect.
God, baby.
Praise God. Yeah,
my God.
I love Theo Von. He's right on the line of like, is he serious or is this a character? Like he's either very mentally fucked up or he's a phenomenally genius comedian. There is no in between. But I think it kind of bleeds over. I think he does both. I think he's both.
Yeah, he did one of the times when he was on Rogan, he talked about going to the gym, and his thoughts on the gym are just so funny because he throws some wild takes out there.
What was it that he was saying? Like,
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I remember sitting there listening to it being like, what is this dude talking about?
Yeah, he's funny. He's a comedian. He's a character. But he did smelling salts on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he did it a few times. He's like, he kind of liked it. I remember that was a while ago, but
well, he like was keeling over from it, and they're both him and Rogan are recovering, and then you just hear Rogan go, "Bro, don't do it again," and he's actively hitting it again.
He's a fucking animal. He's an animal. But yeah, he's funny. Let's see. What's another like?
I got a big one.
Yeah, go ahead.
That you will. I mean, we talked about this before as well, but you will only lose weight from cardio. Like if you increase cardio, you will lose more weight.
It's a tool to help you get there, but it's not going to be your main tool.
It's like if you were,
but that's it.
If you were trying to dig a hole, all right. If you're trying to dig a hole, you can use your hands. That would be like going to the gym. If you take like a little toy shovel, that's your diet. And then you get an actual shovel and there's your cardio. All of it builds together to dig that hole, but you got to do all of them to actually be able to, do it.
You could even look at it like this. It's like, okay, you got like, when it comes to losing weight, you got like an excavator. That's your fucking food. Like your food's going to be the biggest thing, right? Then you got like a shovel. That's going to be your weight training. Like lifting burns the most amount of calories. Then you got like a garden shovel, and that's like your cardio. But like if you utilize all three of those things, you can dig a pretty big hole pretty quick. But it's not like you're going to make serious progress if you're just doing cardio, or you're just doing weight training, you're just doing your food.
Yeah.
It's all of those in conjunction, and the other common misconception with cardio too is that you lose muscle by doing cardio. It's not. I don't even know who the fuck came up with that. Like, where did that start? Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me.
I don't know.
There's no logic.
I think what it comes from is that when you're like, let's say you do running or even just intense walking for cardio, you sweat a lot. And when you sweat a lot, people correlate that with fat loss. And I mean, fat weighs more than other things in your body. So I think that's kind of where the mentality of I do cardio to lose weight comes from.
Yeah. I mean, cardio is a tool, and losing water weight will like, that's another thing with keto is that like a lot of people think that keto starts working right away. And it's like, no, a lot of it's water, actually. A lot of your weight that you're dropping is water. And then cardio is just an extra tool to add more calorie deficit, like a more of a caloric deficit. So like, no matter what, like you should always be doing your weight training. Cardio, you should utilize depending on the program you're doing. Right now I'm doing cardio for health, but when I'm prepping for, when I'm going to be prepping for a show, I'm going to be doing a lot of cardio because my body, like I'm very carb sensitive and I hold on to food decently well, which is good and bad thing. So for me, I need to do more cardio in order to lose the weight, but it's not like I'm doing nothing else to do, like to help with that. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to be eating less. I'm going to be training hard, all of that. So it's a tool, but it's not going to be your entire solution. And then that kind of leads to like, just because the scale is changing or isn't changing doesn't necessarily mean you're losing weight or not losing weight. So like, or like losing fat. I mean, like just because the scale doesn't move doesn't necessarily mean you're losing fat, so like for me, if I put on muscle and lose fat, I'm actually going to be gaining a little bit of weight because muscle weighs heavier than fat. So like, yes, on the scale doesn't look like I'm losing fat, but if you look in the mirror, you'll see the difference. The mirror is going to be your biggest help when it comes to like whether or not losing fat. The scale is just a way of judging it. The scale doesn't necessarily mean everything. It's all about what's in the mirror. And that's how I know that I'm putting on a lot of mass right now, is that like, I'm not even my heaviest I've ever been, but as far as like actual muscle content, it's pretty high in comparison to the past. So that's
Yeah.
how I know that I've put on the muscle. So the scale is not going to be everything. Your scale is not going to tell you whether or not you're losing anything.
Well, also with the mirror too, and I think this kind of I didn't see it on any of the lists, but like consistently, weighing or taking like progress pics like every day or something like that. Like we are the last person to see the change in ourselves. So having a second set of eyes really helps. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, Paul has his wife. So I'm sure there's times when you're like, do you notice changes between these two pictures or something like that? And you're utilize that second set of eyes to see if there is noticeable growth that way.
Yeah.
Um, so that when you take these pictures, it's to help you, and like Paul was saying, it's more noticeable that way for your progress that you're trying to do. Because when people say, like, so often we hear, I go to the gym because I want to lose weight, and they say that because they think that weight directly correlates with how they look, which is not
Mm-hmm.
at all how it is. Like when I have my middle schoolers that I teach and they're like, hey, you're in the gym, tell me how to lose weight, I ask them, why do you want to lose weight? And the only people I'll give advice for how to lose weight are people who are like, I want to be able to athletically run faster or something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing would need some kind of weight loss. Whereas when someone goes, I don't like how I look, I respond with, that isn't real. I mean, it maybe 50%, but it's not directly correlated to weight. You have to do other things. Like you can turn what you have into muscle and then you'll just look really good. You don't have to lose that size.
Yeah, and I mean when you're talking like morbidly obese, weight typically does kind of translate into fat loss, but it's not like you losing 100 pounds of weight. You're losing other things as well as on top of fat. Like you're losing water weight, and you're probably gaining a little bit of muscle as well. So just because somebody lost 100 pounds, that's a pretty big difference. Like it's not just 100 pounds of fat. You're doing a lot more than that. So that's a pretty big like number to be talking about. Losing 10 pounds of fat is a fucking shit ton. Like because fat cells
Yeah.
are also full of a lot of water, so they're very light. So when you lose 10 pounds of fat, that's a shit ton. Like that's so like depending on like for the average person, 10 pounds of fat is a lot. And what's funny is that I think it's the FDA. I forget who it is. There's basically this saying that the amount of fat in your body that would be ideal is the size of an apple. Um, that's what they
Yeah.
say, is that if you take all your fat throughout your body and combine it into an apple or like to a ball, it should be about the size of an apple. Um, which is kind of interesting to think about because I mean, I don't necessarily think that that's like 100% accurate because weight is so light. I think that's only like a couple pounds of fat, and we do need a certain percentage of body fat to properly regulate our hormones. For guys, it's 4%. I think women, it's like 12%.
Yeah.
But it's like, losing weight it's gonna come off quick. So for me, sitting at 202.7 right now, if I could, I'd love to step on stage like in the low 180s. Like I'd be really happy if I was like 182, 183 stepping on stage in a very lean weight, like lean look. Like if I could get down to 102, 103 or higher and be stage ready, I'd be very happy with that. So like that would take 20 pounds of weight loss, including water, and I will lose some muscle in the process. That's part of the process. But that's where anabolics also helps come in, is that it helps you maintain. But it's not just fat you're losing, it's also water. And water is going to be like 5-6 pounds probably, or even more of that is going to be water when I step on stage. So really my goal is really probably going to end up being like 10 to 15 pounds of fat at the end of the day. Which is a decent amount. It's going to make a big difference. So just because you're losing weight on the scale or not losing the weight doesn't necessarily correlate to how you look in the mirror, and how you look in the mirror is going to be everything. And that's why we do weekly weigh-ins. That's why you and I both do weekly weigh-ins, because we can actually see the differences from week to week, and see where we're at now versus where we are at back then. It's like I lost weight this week for this weigh-in, but I feel I've gotten a lot more size. So something happened where I think I've lost some water, maybe lost some fat. So it does correlate, the mirror is going to correlate.
See, I'm not able to eat an apple today because my mind, when you said you should have the amount of fat in your body equal to an apple, is thinking about an apple and biting in, and it's just fat pulled off of like a steak or something like that.
It's like oh, I love fat on steak though. I'd be so like,
Oh,
I don't
but
want
just
straight
the
fat,
fat.
but yeah, I
That's
don't
what I
want
mean. Like
straight
you bite into
fat,
the
but
apple
like,
and it's just straight fat.
yeah. Yeah, that would be kind of gnarly. That would be kind of gnarly. There are times where I have a whole bite of fat by accident. I'm like, like this tastes so good, but it's so weird. But
Yeah,
that's
I
me. I
mean,
love fat.
I think that's also, it's not on any of the lists, but when people get like steaks or actually it's mostly steak, and they see the fat on
Beef.
the side of it. Yeah, well, certain cuts of beef, like ground beef, doesn't have it.
Well,
But
it has fat in it.
I agree, but I'm saying visible fat,
Yeah, yeah,
and people will cut that off and not cook it and just eat the meat that's there. And I'm like, buddy, you're missing out on some of the best part of the meal right there. Like,
yeah,
yes, it's not like nutrient wise as good as the actual meat that's there, but you're still getting stuff out of it. You still need fat levels. That's why if you see a steak and you like MyFitnessPal or something like that, a steak has fat levels. And I mean,
yeah,
that's just from the fatty material that's on the meat. And so you shouldn't be cutting that off. You should just be, cooking it through, eating it, enjoying it. Cause like Paul said, like it's actually tastes pretty good if you can cook it well.
yeah, yeah. And it makes me upset if people cut off fat off steak, because you can get, if you really don't want the fat, you can get lean steak like without
Yeah.
the fat. Like one of the more expensive ones is filet is a pretty lean steak, uh, and it's very expensive. So it's like you could get like a really tasty lean steak, but they got to get like ribeye and cut off the fucking fat, or like New York strip and cut off the strip. It's like, dude, that's the whole fucking point of the cut. Like you're ruining the whole point of that steak. But I'm also like, if you don't like the taste of fat, you just buy a different cut. But I think also when it comes to steak fat, I think it's kind of like a maturity thing. Like you got to have it, and when you give it a chance, you'll see how much flavor it can actually add to the steak, because it
Yeah,
adds so much
absolutely.
flavor. And if it's cooked properly, obviously, you don't want to undercook it. You don't also want to overcook it, because it'll have a burnt taste to it. But if you undercook it, it'll be like this weird powdery texture. I don't even know how to explain it, because I have undercooked steak and I bite into it, and it's still like, it doesn't have that like juicy, like rubber, not really rubbery, but like juicy, gritty, not really gritty, gristle kind of chew to it. But like when you undercook it, you're biting into, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like fat. Like that's the only way I could fucking explain it. But yeah, that's steak for you. Let's see, what's another myth we could talk about. Um, let's see, stretching.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's a big one.
Yeah, stretching is another one. When it comes to stretching, I mean, just because you stretch doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a good workout or like you have to do a pre-workout. I mean, stretching is really not even like super needed. There's this whole common misconception of stretching that like that's how you make your muscles unsore and stuff, and it's evolved from stretching to then using like one of those like Theraguns or whatever where like it vibrates super fast in your muscle. Like there's you just
Muscle
like
guns, yeah.
yeah, like it's just when it comes to mobility training or just recovery, simply walking and using proper form with your training is going to be enough. Yeah, stretch if you want to here and there, but it's not going to be like you don't need to do a pre-workout or post-workout to have an effective workout.
Yeah.
Like I don't even go into the gym and limber up. I don't. I just go into the gym and just hit whatever muscle group I'm going for because by hitting it, I limber up. Like when I go into leg day, I do leg curls to warm up my legs in general. But like then I get into hack squat. It's not like I like do body weight hack squats or something. Or like body weight squats to warm up my legs. I just go right into it. You know, I start with my warm up set. You know, I have a warm up set that gets me ready for the movement, and then I get into my actual working sets. So that's really all you need. You don't actually need to be sitting there for 20 minutes and stretching.
And that actually applies for sports as well. I know athletically for baseball at least, you do warm ups. You don't do stretching because for your arm, when you stretch the muscle, you actually tear the fibers a little bit, and you end up making it weaker than it should be. Like if you want a
Interesting.
sustained game, like for example, your throwing arm, you do warm up motions, which you start short, you do like some basic like arm flaps, and then you go into some actual throwing. You go short throwing, long throwing, and you build up from there. But the people who do full on stretching actually pulls the arm and makes it so that it can't produce the same or can't exert the same amount of force as it would if you were to do the warm up style. So just like in the gym, we do our warm ups, we don't do our like quote unquote stretching. Like for example, my coach has me do 2 to 3 minutes of medium intensity bike work. I just hop on a bike and I do 2 to 3 minutes of that for
Hmm.
I don't even sweat sometimes when I do it because it's just to get my entire body warmed up. Because when you biking is great to warm up your whole body, because even though it is only your legs, it's pulling blood from everywhere else. You're sweating from everywhere else. If you do that, it takes a lot on your cardio system because you have to breathe a lot. Um, so that's just a great way to warm up into it. And then you go in, and like Paul said, you have a warm up set, which isn't body weight. It's whatever your um, starting weight is going to be, because you do warm up sets before you get to your working sets. That's that's how progressive overload works for us in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, that's all you're really going to need. Like, and the other thing too is if you're putting on size, especially when it comes to anabolics, you're going to lose some mobility. It's going to happen. You're going to lose some flexibility. Your muscles are going to gain size, and it's going to make it harder for you to move the way that you used to. So if you want to stay limber and stay flexible and stuff, then maybe muscle size isn't what you need to be going for. Um, but like that's why like you talk to anybody who's massive, they'll say that it feels like they're moving around like they're obese, like because they just have so much muscle, they're moving around so much weight, and they're so big that it's hard to fit into regular seats and shit. But it's muscle, it's not fat. It's a different problem to have. Um, but it's the same kind of thing. It's just because you're not mobile or like as flexible as you were isn't a bad thing. You're putting on size, and more size means that you're going to be less flexible. It's just how the human body works.
Yeah,
You know, if you have gigantic biceps, you're not going to be able to bend your arm as much. That's why it's the bigger arms you get and the bigger back you get, the harder it is to scratch your back or try to reach around to your back because you're just building more muscle, and that applies to everything else. So stretching isn't necessarily like gonna give you more muscle gains or like really help you in any way. It can actually mess things up.
mm.
Stretching before workout you can actually damage joints and shit prior to even lifting. And that's why I also think that like guys take it too far with rotator cuff stretches prior to like a shoulder day or something, because you end up fucking your rotator cuff. Like you don't want to be doing hypertrophy with your fucking rotator cuffs, bro. It's a joint. Like maybe stretching
I
it for
want
a
to have,
second.
instead of 2 rotator cuffs, I want 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to build my rotator cuffs up. I want to get bigger rotator cuffs. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like these guys go up to a cable machine and do like 10 minutes of rotator cuff warm ups. I'm like, bro, stretching your shoulders up with your arm for a second is like enough you got to do. That's like all you really got to do. And then just get into the movements. Like on a shoulder day, you're going to be doing enough taxing your rotator cuffs that they're going to be opening up. Like, don't worry about it. You're fine.
Yeah.
So that's also one that kind of upsets me too, is the push for rotator cuff warm ups. That one's a bit annoying. But another one to get into, which we talked about really heavily one day, was how women think that lifting heavy weights will make them more masculine, bulk them up.
Mhm.
Not the case. Not the case. You will not look
Imagine
more
not wanting to
masculine.
be physically fit because you're scared you're going to turn into a dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like look at like bikini models or like bikini competitors or like women's wellness. Like they lift pretty heavy weights, especially women's wellness, and it's just as feminine as anybody else. You know what I mean? Like as any other woman. Like it's you're not just going to become a dude just because you lift weight. Um, so it's just that's also a common misconception as well for women. For guys, obviously, it's not a worry, but for women, it definitely absolutely is. Um, Another one too for men is that um, isolate movements are better for building muscle, and that's not always the case as well.
That
Um,
yeah, that stems back to like the cardio weight loss thing because it's not the only thing. It's
yes,
it's built it builds into everything else.
yeah, it's something to use in conjunction with compound movements.
Yeah.
Some of the best leg movements ever invented, squats, hack squat, all of that, the leg press, are compound movements where they work multiple muscles at once. You're going to have one muscle group that's more emphasized, but you're going to be hitting other things at the same time. And hitting something, isolating something, and hitting it will help absolutely, but also isolate movements are on the more advanced side. I think that if you're a
I think
beginner,
form wise, because if
oh
you
yeah,
mess up
yeah,
the form on an isolate, you've basically reduced it to not actually working what you want it to. Whereas with a compound movement, if you mess up the form a little bit, you're still going to target something.
yeah, you're still gonna actually do a proper rep. But isolate, if you're not hitting the one thing you're trying to isolate, then there's no point in doing it. Um, but with compound movements and isolate movements, isolate is on the more advanced side because of that. So if you're on the beginner slash intermediate side, compound is generally the more way to go when getting started in the gym and when getting comfortable and understanding how the human body works, and then you can kind of dive into like isolate, sprinkling it in. And a lot of it's going to come down to trial and error and what your body responds to the best. I know plenty of guys who, like for me, I lean more machine for a lot of movements for my entire body. Um, but that's just because that's just what my body agrees to the most. Where I know plenty of guys who they only need free weights and they fucking bulk up, and the second they touch machines, they don't really do anything. It's like it doesn't really help them. So it just depends on your body, and you just got to adjust accordingly. And that's why machinery is so important to me, is because my body responds very very well to machines. It's just the way I work, and obviously I do free weight and cable movements and plenty of each, but I would say a good 60% of what I do is probably machinery.
Yeah.
It's just how it works for me. Just because it's isolated in the muscle doesn't necessarily mean I'm gaining more muscle. It's just how I respond to it. How I lift is not going to be the exact same how somebody else lifts. It's all going to come down to trial and error. So
And
that's
we've
another
we've
common
talked about
misconception.
so often on this podcast listening to your body. Like I think that was on the first
Every
like
day,
10
pretty much.
episodes. Yeah, like first 10 episodes at the minimum we talked about just listen to your body because
Yeah.
we'll give you all this information. You just have to listen.
Yeah, exactly. And your body's going to tell you what it needs and what it likes. So if your body doesn't like compound movements, this is also after some time in the gym. Like you've been in there for a bit, you've done both compound isolate, you've tried out different kinds of things. If you go back to like compound movement for something and you notice that you haven't gained as much as before, then go back to your isolate. For me, I've got all my workouts dialed into the exact same movements pretty much every single day as the previous week. So like that's why I don't want to lift with anybody anymore, honestly, at this point, is because I'm very particular on how I lift and what I lift. It's just what works for me. So you should be getting to the same place, ideally. And everybody who lifts should be getting to the same place. If you lift with someone, then figure out a routine that works best for both of you guys, and you can build proper muscle off that. But obviously everybody doesn't lift the same way. I've lifted with people in the past, and I'd fuck up my shoulder because they lift more intense than I do and do a lot less reps. So my body's not used to that. But then I lift on my own and I have no problems. I'm gaining plenty and all of that. And other people lift with me and they don't like how I lift. It's just the way it goes. It's just, you got to listen to your body and do what works for you. And just because it's isolated doesn't necessarily mean you're going to gain more muscle from it. So that's another common misconception.
Now, Paul, for listening to your body, Paul, if I worked out today, can I go eat a big pizza, a whole bunch of fries, and then a whole bunch of chicky tenders that were fried in some nice oil? Can I just eat whatever I want?
No, you cannot.
But Paul, I did good today. I did 30 minutes of Stairmaster.
Then let's just go ahead and just forget you did all that after eating that shit. You just made all that fucking useless. That's also another one too, is that just because you put in the work doesn't mean you get to eat however you want.
Have you seen the video? The influencer's name is like Tennyson or something like that, and he does
Will Tennyson.
Yeah, it's there's a myth for a half hour after you finish your lift, you're allowed to eat anything you want, and it doesn't impact your actual physique or
that
like
what's it called, the hypertrophy window or whatever it's called. Anabolic window where you needed to eat within a half hour, or else you wouldn't have gained anything from the gym. It
was that you could eat anything in the first half hour.
Yeah,
so he was like running to like Chick-fil-A after his workout.
That's a common misconception. That should not be a thing.
Yeah, in terms of, like, we talk about it all the time. The gym is almost secondary to how important our diet is. So if you truly want to achieve the gains that you're interested in, the diet comes first. You have to have that locked in. So that's kind of where these myths kind of come from, is that people looking for shortcuts because they think the gym is what makes the person fit or whatever. Like, I saw a post today about a woman who's petitioning that overweight people should get free extra seats on airplanes because it's discriminatory if they don't get it. And one of the comments was like, or you could just focus on yourself. And someone said, it was like, not everyone has access to a gym. And I'm sitting there going, it's not in the gym.
Yeah,
you achieve that from the dieting. Like, come on, man.
It's always the food you eat. You can lose weight without going to the gym if you just eat properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can gain weight the same way.
Big enough. Yeah. And if you're big enough, you don't even necessarily need to change the entire way you eat. Just take out shit that's bad for you, and that'll be enough,
Yeah.
Like, there's so much you can do before you ever step in the gym to lose weight. And I hate that shit. Just be like, oh, I need 2 seats on the airplane and now I have to pay double. Yeah, because you're taking up 2 seats.
Yep. It's like, not the airline's fault that you're that size.
You can directly change that.
Yeah.
It's like height is a different story, but it's like going to a roller coaster ride or something and being like super tall, and it's like, wow, you guys can't accommodate for me. It's like, dude, it was fucking built for like the average person, like from the vast majority of people. Like, yeah, Paul, it can be cramped on planes.
But Paul, isn't weight genetics?
It's all genetics. I have no control over it, and it's also racist. Diets are racist.
Math is racist.
Yeah, school is racist. All education is racist inherently. If you're white, you're racist too. That's a new one. But yeah, it's just like, it's granted, airplanes can be tight, absolutely, but like, think about it. You're like, Louis C.K. had a joke where he said, "You're sitting in a chair in the sky. Like, what are you complaining about? Like, yeah, you got to pay for 2 plane tickets because you're that big. Like, you're that big. You have to pay for 2 plane tickets. That's a fucking problem. Like, you're so big you can't put on your seatbelt in your car. You have to sit in the back. That's a problem."
Yep.
So just because you decided to get to that point doesn't mean everybody else has to accommodate for you. Everybody you accommodate for the vast majority of people, or the general public, And then anybody outside of that, you know, obviously disabilities is a different ballgame. You know, when you're talking about disabilities, like wheelchair accessible, stuff like that, it's a different story. You know, they can't typically help that. A lot of them are born that way. That's a different story. But like, if you decide to be so big you need 2 airplane tickets, then I don't really got any sympathy. I mean, you're there. Like you did it to yourself. You can
But
change that
Paul,
anytime you want.
I didn't decide. I just ate KFC every meal for 3 years, and this happened to me.
It's my thyroid. They won't remove my thyroid.
I'm big boned.
Yeah. I just got bigger bones. It runs in my genetics.
And
My
we're on
birth
our way to
parents want
being
that.
canceled for being fat phobic.
Which is another stupid fucking term. I'm not scared of fat people.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Or
It's when you're
I mean, I wouldn't even. I know phobic is like phobias are fears, but fat phobic isn't like when people say you're fat phobic in the gym. Like it's almost like they're claiming that you hate fat people too, and I'm like, I don't. I think you could improve your you know living if you just improved yourself. You know.
yeah, your actual um what's the word? Your like your experience of life is better. Like there's a word for it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The actually experience is going to be much more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Because you can do more things and talk to anybody who was once very large and is now not very large, and they'll tell you that life is so much better. The experience of life is much, much better. And yeah, I hate that. It's like, I promote very large people to go to the gym. Like, please go. Like, it's like, I would support you. I'll help you. Like, ask for advice, whatever it is. Like, ask for a spot, whatever it is. Like, we're all there for this for similar reasons. You know, it's
Hell, I'll build your diet for you.
yeah. I'll give you suggestions on what to eat. I don't want the liability, but yeah, it's just like it's wild. It's wild that that's how society is now. Man, it's fucking crazy. And we're already a disadvantage for being white.
Yep.
Genetically,
And
we are
straight,
just
white and straight. We're the
oh
worst
yeah,
brand
but
right now.
like physically, like we are like generally if you're white, you're European, and European descent does not necessarily promote a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
Typically, or like an aesthetic physique, it just doesn't promote that. It's just not
Yeah.
how for hundreds and hundreds of years we've been fat slobs.
Man, why weren't we just born in the Hawaiian Islands and got that incredible genetics?
Yeah, Samoan just fucking pack on muscle like no tomorrow. Like or like Asian descent, like if you're like from like Eastern Asia, like you can
Mongolia.
just be yeah, just lean tiny as fuck waist, just like super aesthetic. It's just
Yeah.
how they are. Great to put on muscles a bitch, but like that's why it's so fascinating to see like a buff Asian. It's like, dude, that's fucking sick. It's like seeing a
Yeah.
unicorn. It's like fucking so rare. It's so rare. It's so sick. Um, but yeah, if you have African descent, you just have amazing genetics. Like just athletically, you just like look at like the top 5 of like most bodybuilding shows. Almost all of them are black. Like they just
Yeah.
fucking decimate us. It's just not even it's not even close. It's not even close. And most sports are the same way. It's just athletically, they just sit way beyond us, which
I
sucks.
mean, Breon's been around for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's been
Well,
doing
okay.
shows for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is that the one division that we really dominate is classic. That's the one division.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the classic lineup, granted Ramon is Brazilian or Portuguese, whatever you want to call it, Brazilian really, but
Brazilian.
yeah, most guys up on stage for classic are white. It's just the way we're built. But men's physique and men's open is either Middle Eastern or black, and then men's physique is almost entirely black. It's just genetically, it's just so far ahead of everybody else. It's blessed with it. And obviously the fastest runners in the world are all African. Not even
Yeah.
close. The competition's not even close. But it's not like a race thing. It's not like a racist thing. It's just how it is. It's just
Yeah.
genetically. It's what we're built for. And we should be celebrating those differences. You know, it's not something to be looked down upon or we can be envious. That's one thing, but like we should embrace it, embrace the differences between everybody and celebrate that there's so many different cultures and so many different ways of life and everybody's built so differently. But then when you get into the unhealthy things that people promote, like being very, very large, and, obviously love yourself, don't be unhappy in your own skin, but, don't be forcing
Always,
people to accommodate for you.
and always want to improve too. Like,
Yeah.
be happy, but always want to improve.
Yeah. I mean, I think that should be your mindset. It's not everybody's mindset, but, if you want to progress in life, then always look for better. Ideally, it's a blessing and a curse, but if you look for better, you're going to keep moving forward and you're going to get better. So just got to put your mind to it. It's not how it is, though.
Brother.
But you should probably call it there. I mean, I think we went over a bunch of different myths. I mean, we could talk about more in the future if we come across anything new.
On this episode of Mythbusters, Christoph and Paul tackle.
That's what we should do. Like once a year,
do the whole intro like they have, where they're spinning around with like math equations.
But it's just like
us mogging.
It's like dumbbells and like machinery and shit, just like going around, and it's like chicken, just like chicken breast going around us, and then like Tren pops up and fades away, like
a piece of spinach.
Yeah, exactly. Broccoli with some rice or something. Like no sugar seasoning the other way, going the other way, like all these different like common shit. But if we did it like with those like a high school, it'd be like a perm, like pulls away, and like a cross earring going the other way.
Yep.
They're spinning, they're all wearing wife beaters of different colors,
broccoli heads.
Yeah, exactly. And then talk about charms, like just like have like Austrian pop up and be like Austrian, like have it float off and LGD. Yeah, that'd be funny. We'll get something like that. But with that being said, appreciate you guys listening. Stay safe in the gym and use proper form. Don't believe all the myths you hear.
All right, everybody. Bye.
See you guys.